All right, let's get right into it. Have you ever really stopped to think about the difference between the software you click on, like Photoshop, and the software you talk to, like ChatGPT? Because it's way more than just a different user interface. It's a completely different way of building things, a whole different philosophy. Today, we're going to take a journey through the three distinct ages of software to really understand how we got to where we are right now. So let's start with that big question. On the surface, yeah, Photoshop and ChatGPT, they just seem like two different apps on your computer, right? But the truth is, they're built on fundamentally different principles. They actually represent two entirely separate eras of technology. And figuring out that difference, well, that's the key to understanding the wild world of tech we're living in today. And that brings us to the very beginning, the first age of software. I want you to think of this era like a master chef writing an incredibly detailed, super specific, step-by-step recipe. Every single instruction is spelled out perfectly. All a cook has to do is follow it to the letter, and they get the exact same dish every single time. This was the age of rules. And that, my friends, is what we call Software 1.0. This is traditional programming, the classic stuff. It's where a human developer sits down and writes explicit instructions, code, for the computer to follow. Every single thing the software does is based on a direct, logical command. It's all, if this happens, then do that. There's absolutely no guesswork involved. And this really gets to the heart of it. It's all about human control. In the world of Software 1.0, the developer is in complete command. They are the architect, they're the builder, the whole shebang. The software is just a perfect reflection of their logic. And you know this software like the back of your hand. Think about Microsoft Excel, Adobe Photoshop, or any word processor. They're predictable, they are super reliable, and they do exactly what you tell them to do. Why? Because they're built on this solid foundation of strict, pre-written rules. But that brilliant predictability, well, it had a ceiling. I mean, how could you possibly write a rule for recognizing a cat? There are just too many variables, right? Different breeds, weird camera angles, crazy lighting. It's pretty much impossible to define with simple if-then logic. And this limitation, this wall they hit, set the stage for a massive evolution. And bam, this is the paradigm shift right here. We went from a world where the most valuable thing was the cleverness of your code to a world where the most valuable thing was the sheer amount and quality of your data. The entire game was about to flip. So welcome to the second era, Software 2.0. Let's go back to our chef analogy. This is like training an apprentice not by giving them a recipe book, but by having them taste thousands and thousands of different dishes. They don't memorize steps. They start to develop an intuition, a feel for what makes food taste amazing. This is the age of machine learning. So instead of writing rules, developers now build a kind of framework, what we call a model, and then they just feed it enormous amounts of data. Think of the model as a blank slate, like a digital brain that can be trained. It then sifts through all that data, finds the patterns, and basically teaches itself the rules for how to do a task. This is the magic that powers so much of our modern world. I mean, when Netflix suggests a movie you actually want to watch, or Spotify creates that perfect playlist out of thin air, it's not because some engineer wrote a rule that said, you might like this. No way. It's because a model learns your taste from your data and the data of millions of other people. But this incredible new power came with a really interesting trade-off. These systems, while they're super effective, can often be a black box. The model might correctly identify a cat in a photo 99.9% of the time, but we couldn't always ask it to explain how it knew. Its reasoning was all tangled up inside this incredibly complex web of learned patterns. So Software 2.0 was a huge leap, for sure, but we could only teach a machine to recognize things that already existed. We couldn't really ask it to create something totally new. And that's where the third era kicks in. Our analogy has to shift one more time. Now, the restaurant owner doesn't write a recipe and they don't train an apprentice. They just turn to an AI super chef and say, create a novel, world-class pasta dish for me. And the AI just figures it all out on its own. This is Software 3.0. This is the era of generative AI. And just like the name says, this is AI that can generate brand new stuff. Text, images, music, and yes, even software code. The AI itself is now becoming the programmer. We're moving away from writing code and moving towards just describing the outcomes we want in plain English. The very act of programming is being abstracted away. Just let that sink in for a second. We're not just talking about software that can perform a task. We are talking about software that can create new software. We have literally built a tool that can now build its own tools. It's a mind-bending concept.
So the whole workflow has been radically simplified. It starts with a human who just states a goal. We call that the prompt. Then the AI figures out the intent behind that prompt. And finally, the AI generates the code or the text or whatever's needed to make it happen. All that crazy complexity is now handled by the machine.
And this brings us right back to the beginning. Tools like ChatGPT, which can literally write code for you on command, or GitHub Copilot, which helps developers write code in real time, these are the poster children for this brand new era. They're not just following rules, and they're not just learning patterns, they are generating completely novel solutions.
Okay, so we've covered 3 totally distinct eras, but when you look at them together, they tell one continuous story. It's a story of abstraction, of humans getting further and further away from the nitty-gritty details and closer to just focusing on the big picture goals. So let's put it all together. This table is the perfect snapshot of our whole journey. In Software 1.0, the human was the programmer, and the core element was explicit code. Then, in 2.0, the model kind of took over, and its fuel was learning from data. And now, here in 3.0, the AI itself is the programmer, and its core element is understanding and generating language. You can see the progression clear as day, from code to data to language.
And that journey leaves us with one final and honestly a pretty massive question. In a world where an AI can write the code, what's our new role? What becomes the most valuable, essential skill a person can have? Maybe it's not about having the answers anymore. Maybe it's about mastering the art of asking the right questions. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.